Tonight, a major six stimulus package is in the works because of allegiance between France, Germany, and the United States. What does this mean for you? I'll go over the incredible sums of money in this six stimulus package heating up. It's a reality, and it's being caused by the oil embargo being pursued by world alliances tonight. Meantime, other commodities are unfolding, and I'll go over why those embargoes of Russian imports could be impacted as well. And then, of course, the big money that's at issue, your money, CR for stimulus, and SS 300, plus the incredible money of third stimulus impacted across the board, and what you need to know. But first, we're going to start with the big exciting money of $80,000 in new stimulus checks going live, and they went live starting on Monday. What's at issue? Boy, what an exciting night it is, and it all continues right now on Evenings LA. The President of the United States surprised millions of Americans last week by announcing a new program that'll have $80,000 of stimulus checks for millions of Americans. Eligibility is just like a third stimulus check, and if you're on benefits, you can qualify as well. What is it? It's a homeowner's grant program. Average payout is $15,000 to $80,000, and all you have to do is be within the zone of eligibility and own your home. In the case of what's going on, this is a big relief because millions of Americans need this money, and it's in addition to everything featured on this channel. Sound a little bit like third stimulus? Don't worry, because you can get it in addition to that as well. What are the payouts? How do you get it? And what is it called? Let's go over all the big details right now on this Evenings LA broadcast. $80,000 of new checks went live this Monday with a new program called the Homeowners Grant. And it's underwritten by the federal government. Average payout is $15,000 to $80,000. You need to be a homeowner, and you need to be with the zone of eligibility, which is much like a third stimulus check. Single individual, $75,000 or less, you get it. $150,000 less, you get it. If you're a member of this channel, you got the information before anyone else. On the Friday membership newsletter of this channel last Friday, it was rolled out the minute it was announced by the White House, and you saw it first. That's why you want to become a member of this channel, because members get information in pounces per box and get these monies before anyone else. This is money that is huge. One, average payout is $15,000 to $80,000 per household. Second, the eligibility is $75,000 less for a house for an individual, or $150,000 less for a married couple. Number three, most states don't require you to be behind on the monies. And then it gets even better. The sums of money covers items that millions of viewers have asked for coverage for over a year and a half and haven't found it. So what do you need to know? Let's go over the details starting right now. These new $80,000 checks are huge, and they're administered by the U.S. government. U.S. Department of Treasury has issued $10 billion to fund this new grant program. And when we say grant program, it means you don't have to pay it back. It ain't a loan, it's a grant. It's administered on the state level, so state websites will administer and receive your application. If you're with this channel since day one, you remember how EIDL and PUA and unemployment assistance were administered locally at state level. This is the same. So you'll go to your state level for the application and then get the money. And just like some states going live before others, back in 2020, it's the same situation tonight. This channel will be monitoring the situation across the board, but this is what you need to know tonight. The program started going live on Monday, and membership of this channel got it in the newsletter. At the front of the newsletter has the link to the website that sends you to the respective state agencies and their mapping that shows you where you get the money. Average payout $15,000 to $80,000. And then the eligibility is huge because guess what? It can cover mortgage payment, property taxes. It can also cover items like association fees and utilities, and also certain home repairs. Again, average payment is $15,000 to $80,000. If you've been with this channel since day one, you may have seen third stimulus. It doesn't overlap with that. So if you've gotten third stimulus before, you can get this as well. The great news is that this is for homeowners. So let's recap. While the homeowners grant announcing $15,000 to $80,000 is for homeowners, third stimulus pays you for rent or for homeowners. So if you're renting, you get third stimulus. or homeowners assistance. And if you are a homeowner, you get this grant or a third stimulus. You get it covered one way or the other, whether you're a renter or a homeowner on this channel. Meantime, CR for stimulus heating up, and that is where we are right tonight. We do not know at the time of this recording if Joe Biden will pull back on his request for a little bit of CR money, the continuing resolution money, for COVID. If he does, the deal will fall apart. What's at issue? A continuing resolution has an inherent deadline just a few days from now. And the president, during the State of the Union address, said he wanted a little bit more money for COVID. We did not know at the time if that was out of the continuing resolution. I thought he maybe was joking. He wasn't. So the president of the United States says that he wants a little bit of the continuing resolution for COVID. And if that's the case, Republicans are vowing to withdraw their support for the CR, which has an inherent deadline just a few days from now. That would send us over into April, not get done in the month of March. We don't know at the time of the recording if the president will stay on point or he'll pivot and say, you know what, just pass the CR. My opinion of the situation is the following. One, $1.5 trillion of discretionary funding is in there. Negotiations have been done. And we have Democrats and Republicans for over 3 weeks who were asked about the same question, said they wouldn't give any money for COVID. So I don't believe they will hold up the CR for the COVID allocation because they said 2 weeks ago they wouldn't. There's at least enough money for a $2,000 stimulus check to go out of the CR if they do so accordingly. Again, the discretion for that money is in the hands of the White House. Now, SS 300. Jay Powell, your head of the Federal Reserve, has a big problem tonight, and it's not just Vladimir Putin, it's also gasoline. Jay Powell will see on Thursday morning, like you and I will on this channel, if the inflationary rate comes in at 8% for the month of January. If it is, Jay Powell has a problem because he's looking to raise interest rates a quarter basis point at the FOMC meeting of March. But Jay Powell has to pivot because why? He doesn't know if there's going to be a commodity collapse of world markets overnight caused by Vladimir Putin that is not yet risk assessed. What's going on here? Risk assess is when you look at all the situations and you assess the risks. Sitting right here now, we know that Vladimir Putin's in Ukraine. We know that oil is a problem. Is there a new risk that we didn't know yesterday that's a problem today? There is. And there could be a new problem tomorrow. Day after day, Vladimir Putin's acts of aggression against Ukraine is causing new risks that no one is anticipating. And what are they? Number one, we knew that gasoline was going to go up, but we didn't know it was going to go to $5 a gallon. Number two, we knew that the United States was going to ban Russian oil, but we didn't know that Vladimir Putin may remove Russian oil for distribution. Number four, we didn't know that we knew that wheat and grain could be potentially an issue on this channel no less than 5 days ago, but we didn't know that other commodities could also be a problem tonight as well. And they're growing by the second. Let me tell you what's going on and why this is deeply problematic. Jay Powell's job is to bring down inflation, but if he brings it down too fast, then you're not only impacted with your SS 300, you're also going to see a big impact on your money and domestically, inflation and potentially recession. What's at issue tonight? A series of permutations are growing by the minute that no one saw happening across the board. First, Russia's now vowing to ban its oil for distribution. Russia, in a new statement tonight, says it's from its deputy prime minister, Alexander Novak, that it's absolutely clear that if you go after our Russian oil, we're going to remove it from distribution. And that will bring the international Brent crude number to $300 a barrel, says the Russian official. The surge in prices will be unacceptable, and we will bring it to $300 more per barrel. That's a threat from the Russian government. How does it impact us domestically? It impacts us domestically because Russia is vowing to remove Germany's oil. And Germany is a partner of the United States, and if Germany's economy goes under, we're going to have big problems. Let me go over the equation tonight. When we talk about gasoline, we talk about not only our gasoline, but our partner's gasoline. And we talk about not only our dependency on the issue of gasoline, but also the issue of dependency on other types of gasoline. What's at issue? Let's go over the details starting right tonight. There is a series of major problems unfolding, and it's brand new tonight that wasn't even with us 24 hours ago. First, The United States will be moving to ban Russian oil potentially as early as the next 24 hours from now. The House, Democrats and Republicans agreed upon a bipartisan piece of legislation that will ban the import of Russian oils in the United States. It's a moral legislation because it's not an economic piece of legislation. Russian oil only amounts to about 3% of U.S. consumption of oil in the United States. So it doesn't impact us economically to ban Russian oil. But the banning of Russian oil in the United States economically impacts our partner allies. Why? Because they look to the United States for inspiration, and guess what? They're considering the same thing. 2 nights ago, I told you that Germany was approached to consider banning import of its Russian oil by our Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, and said it would not. Situation is very different tonight. Very different tonight. Germany may have no choice. Russia may yank the oil itself. Russia's Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak is threatening to yank the Nord Stream #2 gas pipeline, which feeds all of Germany's gasoline. Germany is 30 to 40% dependent on Russian gasoline, and the European communities are 45% dependent upon Russian gasoline. Nord Stream 2, that's the name of the gas pipeline that services those countries, is coming out of Russia, and Russia tonight says, we have every right to take Nord 2 offline and take Nord 1 offline. We have every right of a matching decision. If you embargo gas pumping through Nord 1, we will take Nord 2 offline. So far, we have not taken such a decision, but European policies with their statements and accusations will not push us to a brink. Bottom line, Russia's vowing to remove its gasoline if anyone pushes Russia any further. Now, there's another part of the equation. We have countries, and then we have businesses. Businesses are actually removing the gasoline. Shell has announced that it's stopped using Russian oil. Before any determination by any government is at issue, the companies are stopping it. And for tonight, we are learning something brand new. Insurance companies will not insure the delivery of Russian oil anymore as of tonight. This means that most private operators, most businesses, most public companies that get Russian oil are moving away from it because they can't get insurance for it. What does this mean? They go and buy Russian oil today, for example, and then they ensure that it's delivered from Russia to its point of entry. Insurance company today, they're saying they're not going to insure it anymore because Vladimir Putin may not give it to you. We're not going to pay for it if you don't get it. So now those companies, before even the nations decide that they're going to ban Russian oil, are pivoting away from it. This is huge because this is a major turning event across the board. What do you need to know about this tonight? It's a very fast-moving series of events. First, domestically, the United States will be banning Russian oil by potentially the end of the week. It won't impact us economically because it's only 3% of our consumption, but it will impact the price of gasoline at home because it will cause world market prices to go up because it will cause analysts to believe that other countries will do the same that are dependent on gasoline. And what does that mean for you? And what does it mean for the price point? Let's go over the details right tonight. The price of gasoline coming on the channel for the last week has surged out of control. You have seen it go up 20 cents nearly every few days. Where is it tonight and where is it going as well? Let me go over those numbers tonight and you're going to be shocked and perhaps really flabbergasted. The price of gasoline going up minute by minute, hour by hour because of what's unfolding overseas, and it's far from settling down. The price tonight, determined by AAA, is heading potentially to $5 a gallon at the pump nationwide by potentially the end of the week. Where's gasoline tonight and where could it head and where is it not sustainable? Numbers very fluid across the board. Currently, gasoline is trending dramatically higher, growing from about 420 to going from about 320 to 420 in just a few days. Tonight, the number's growing and could potentially reach 5 and sustain 5 for days to come. And that is before a Russian embargo actually happens. The prior record, 414, was dating back to almost 2008. Countries like the OPEC nations of United Arab Emirates have vowed not to increase pumping. And meantime, Russian oil and its potential embargo has brought the international valuation of oil through the roof. It's surging to $140 a barrel. That's Brent crude, and that is a level unsustainable. On this channel over the last week, I told you that 110 is not sustainable. 140 is where we are heading across the board. 140 international Brent crude, $5 a gallon at the pump. None of these numbers are sustainable. So, what does this mean? It means that world countries have decided they will do it. Brand new details tonight, and it starts right now. No less than 2 days ago, I told you that countries like Germany would not pivot off of Russian oil because they don't have a solution. It's a different situation tonight because Germany and France have leaders who are politically aligned with Joe Biden. And because they're politically aligned, they're liberal, they're vowing to solve the situation by one, getting off of Russian oil, number two, raising debt to fake finance it, and number three, issuing assistance to its citizens so that they can afford the gasoline. This is before any deal is solidified to get gasoline from partner countries like Venezuela. This comes as 75% of Americans do approve a ban of Russian oil in a new poll, and as millions of international analysts now believe that these numbers are not sustainable. What do you need to know across the board tonight? Let me go over all the details. Number one, where Russian oil is heading is to a potential complete ban with all partner allies. And those partner allies involve the United States that doesn't have a lot of Russian oil, and countries like Germany that do rely extensively, 20 to 40% on Russian oil. So what are they doing? And why is six stimulus now part of the equation? Let's go over the unveiling of six stimulus that started today. Back earlier in 2021, I coined the expression for four stimulus, which became the Build Back Better Act. Tonight on Evenings LA, during this 1 hour special broadcast, you're hearing for the first time the expression six stimulus, which is going to refer to this major social spending bill that is currently starting today in France, Germany, and the United States to deal with the energy crisis initially caused by Vladimir Putin. Let's step back and tell you what's going on. In October of last year, I told you there was 100,000 Russian troops at the Ukrainian border. And I told you it's going to be the biggest economic story of 2022. I did not know it was also going to be the major economic stimulus story of 2022. That's what's happening tonight. World economic analysts now believe because of Vladimir Putin's acts of aggression will cause the Western allies of Germany, France, and the United States to start to do the biggest social spending bill of a generation to battle economically Vladimir Putin. Let me go over what's going on. Russian oil has to be banned. And to ban Russian oil, economies will suffer economically. So that the economies do not suffer economically, those countries will have to raise debt. And to raise the debt, they will also have to give money to their citizens so that they can afford the price of gasoline. In very simple terms, the look at the moment is that the price of gasoline will go higher and stay higher, but the countries will be giving money to its citizens so that they can afford that higher price point because the alternative is morally unacceptable, buying Russian oil. Rather than buy Russian oil, the countries are vowing to now provide assistance to their citizens so that they can afford an energy crisis, which now everyone believes is on the horizon. And while the energy crisis may be short-term until we pivot to Venezuelan oil or something else, it may also be long-term. The energy crisis, as I featured on this channel the last few days, is just 6 weeks away. I told you that $5 a barrel is not sustainable through the month of May. So this is why these countries are now pivoting very quickly because they understand their citizens cannot afford our equivalent of $5 a gallon at the pump through May. And they need assistance. And that is why the European Committee, France, and Germany are now considering with the United States a major funding relief to get off of Russian oil and solidify economic stability. What's at issue? What's at issue is not so much Germany tonight, but France. And there's one date you need to know, especially if you're counter-calling. That date is early April. In early April, the world will see whether Macron, the current president of France, is reelected. Many analysts tonight believe that Macron, who is much like a Joe Biden and is much like Germany's current head, will, as part of a trifecta, if reelected, give an enormous stimulus package. That trifecta, again, would be Germany, France, and the United States leading the way to deal with an energy crisis caused by Vladimir Putin. That trifecta would be solidified if Macron wins that election in April, that re-election. Again, if President Macron wins that re-election in April, then the trifecta of Germany, France, and the United States will unveil a major social spending bill to deal with an energy shortage that its citizens need to survive, and also so that the economies are not negatively impacted by Russia. Now that's where we start tonight, but the situation is even a little bit more fluid across the board. Why is it even more fluid? Because when we look at assessing risk, there's a lot more risk at issue than we even knew. And what is that risk? Folks, it ain't gasoline. It ain't wheat, which is among the risks I've been telling you over the last few days that no one's assessed. It ain't grain. It ain't soybeans. Do you know what it is? If you're in the live chat right now, tell me if you know what other risk has not been assessed and caused a commodity meltdown overnight. It's nickel. Yes. Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine is causing commodity destruction of valuations left and right, and no one has assessed this risk. Among the items today, nickel. Nickel is a very strange commodity, and there's two types of nickels without going into great details. One of the major nickel markets is nearly imploded overnight because of Vladimir Putin. Here's the quote. Saxo Banks' Ole Hansen. This is a very dangerous market right now because this is a market that has been driven by supply and demand, and this is a crashing element that no one has ever sustained. The London Metal Exchange on Tuesday halted all trading of nickel as the price is more than doubled to surpass 100,000 per metric ton. What happened? If it sounds like something out of a strange Clancy novel, let me tell you what happened. An individual out of South Asia had been betting on nickel for months because of electric vehicles. Then Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. That person, billionaire, was on the wrong side of the trade, a short sell. The banks had to cover his margin. The banks are now in the face of default, and guess what? It caused massive implosion of the nickel market overnight. Nickel? Stimulus? Yeah, it's literally unfolding that dramatically. When we look at nickel, it's among the items that you see in a different light. In 2020 and 2021, when we talk about first and second and third stimulus, we talk about COVID, which we can't hold in our hands. Nickel, we can hold in our hands. Wheat, grain, gasoline, we can feel on our fingertips. This is something we can feel. And if it doesn't exist there, there's a problem. And tonight, there's a big problem. Commodities after commodities are in jeopardy of risk assessment and shortages that are not been applied to in the analysis. No one saw a nickel shortage overnight, and no one saw that the mercantile exchange would have to be halted in England. Germany trying to pivot off of gasoline. But what could be the next major economic crisis? It's a very fast-moving series of events. Then the problem is, if you can't assess the risk and you don't have the risk embedded in the equation, what's next? Among the risks is what we're looking at tonight, the beautiful city of Odessa over in the Black Sea region of Ukraine. Vladimir Putin has not yet taken Odessa, and he vows to take it. It's a humanitarian crisis, it's an economic crisis, a cultural crisis, but also impact people internationally. Why? It's an agrarian community along the beautiful Black Sea. And it's a major port, the number one port of Ukraine. If Vladimir Putin controls it, he controls the export of a major element of the commodity market, wheat, grain. And that is why grain and wheat is among the items featured on this channel over the last week of Evening's LATE special 1-hour broadcast as an item that no one has assessed the risks. But has Germany assessed the risks for a nickel implosion of world markets, or France? No. There's a lot to talk about when you talk about an invasion. Far more than just shoring up the strategic alliances of the Baltic states. Far more than just dispatching fighter jets to a partner country. There's a lot more at issue across the board and involves economics. And if you don't assess that risk, then what happens next? Very compelling across the board. Tonight, the humanitarian crisis remains unsettling because the world leaders have not found a way for safe rescue of those evacuees. And the towns remain battlegrounds with people running out of food, running out of water, running out of electricity. 11 days of it bunkered down their home, and the evacuation orders not being honored by Vladimir Putin. A humanitarian effort to get those evacuation orders has not been effectuated yet, and because of Vladimir Putin's acts of aggression, there's both an economic and a humanitarian crisis still changing by the minute throughout tonight's recording. Tonight on Street and Stimulus will feature more about the humanitarian crisis. But here's what you need to know about what's happening domestically as well. The situation on the gasoline front is very fluid, and gasoline is likely to get worse by the minute, by the hour. This is where my predictions are at the time of tonight's recording for Tuesday, March 8th. My predictions are that the consumer price index number releasing on Thursday morning will come in at 8%, number one. Number two, I believe that Joe Biden will pivot off of that demand for a little bit of the COVID relief in the continuing resolution. I don't think it looks good not to have a CR done in the month of March in the middle of an economic war with Russia. Number three, I believe that the House and the Senate will pass a ban on Russian oil by bipartisan support by the end of the week, not by executive order, but by bipartisan support. I believe that the polls will remain the same at about 75% of U.S. Americans supporting it. I believe that other countries will pivot off of Russian oil in about the next 7 days. And I think there's a 50% chance that Russia will turn off Stream 1 and 2 potentially in the next 30 days for countries like Germany, which Russia is very angry at the moment. I don't know what's going to happen with those countries like Venezuela that we could pivot to and get more consumption of oil. I do think that millions of Americans are understanding that domestically we can produce more oil here, that West Texas can make more oil for us. I think that is a very simple concept that millions of Americans understand. Millions of Americans understand that there's political issues in Texas among Republicans and Democrats, and millions of Americans understand that there's more gasoline, the price comes down. I think that West Texas will ultimately get the clearance from the White House to pump more gasoline. Brian Deasy, the chairman of the Chief Economic Council of Joe Biden, appeared on broadcast media today and said that the events of what's unfolding in Russia and Ukraine is a reason why we need to begin electric vehicles. Yes, but that's not a reason not to ramp up production in West Texas for the short time. The situation when we talk about a six stimulus package, viewers of this channel are not stupid. Six stimulus package would not happen in 20 minutes. Ramping up production in West Texas could happen in 20 minutes. Just get the green light and get those great gasoline producers in West Texas to start pumping, start releasing. That is a 24-hour turnaround time, faster than a six stimulus package. Then, once we ramp up the production domestically, we have our situation solved. Then internationally, we can pivot and get our partner allies to agree to a complete ban of Russian oil across the board, get them onto something else like Venezuelan oil, and then solidify those alliances very clear for a six stimulus package, because an energy shortage will not be alleviated by ramping up production in West Texas. It will be getting those partner countries like Venezuela to release oil, which is not guaranteed at the time of tonight's recording. Meantime, I'm very deeply worried about the commodity situation. I can only detail wheat and grain and soybeans. I don't know about copper or nickel. And in fact, I wasn't alone. No one else saw that coming either. No one knew this guy called Big Shot, that's literally his name, Big Shot, had taken a nearly 6 to 9 figure bet on nickel and got it wrong. That his banks would literally be in big problems tonight. These are things that no one saw coming, and sometimes we don't see it coming until it happens. We understand gasoline. We understand Vladimir Putin to some extent, but we don't understand the other elements that could implode across the board. And that's why I'm here for you nightly at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central, and 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Because if there's a situation, I have it analyzed for you in a way you're not going to see it anywhere else. The #1 most watched show in prime time for financial news. I appreciate all your time, and coming up next is another broadcast, but saved throughout the night with Evenings LALATE. And then join me, of course, on Monday morning with that new Consumer Price Index number released. It's a big week with the CR, the $80,000 in new checks, the Russian ban of oil domestically, and the pivot to get a 6 stimulus package, all happening in just less than 24 hours. Who knows what's going to happen by tomorrow night? If it happens, it's on Evenings.